We all want to be paid as much as possible, but today let's talk about why being underpaid sometimes can save your butt. Let's talk about that today. Before we start, I do want to clarify, I'm all for people being paid what they deserve. You should fight for the salary that is right for your job and so on. But what I want to talk about today is a few stories how me personally being underpaid in the past actually saved me. So when I started an e-discovery many years ago, I got hired together with a few other people. And we were hired because a small company was getting more and more work and they needed help. I came on at a very low hourly rate, and I was also part-time. But while I was working there, the workload had decreased. As you know, with e-discovery, it always goes up and down. And because that was a small company, they had to lay off most of the people. But the two people that didn't lay off was me and another person. And because I was part-time and I was at a very low rate, but that allowed me to retain the job, which I probably would have lost if I were to negotiate for a higher salary and would have been making more money. And then a similar thing happened to me years after that. I was working for a company and they were going through major restructuring. They had another company they hired that was going to manage them, basically the change of ownership, sort of say. And when the new owners came in, what they did is they took salary of everybody in the company, they sorted it in descending order and just drew a line. And they picked like a number of everyone above the certain salary, gone. And I happened to be just below the salary that they drew a line at. Now the funny thing about those two stories is at the time, I did not know what was happening. I did not know I was being saved by something. I didn't know how things were working out, what the change in management was doing. These are the things I learned years or months, sometimes after the fact, where people told me like, oh, you know what happened, actually, here is why, and here is so and so. Now, I wasn't happy to be underpaid at that time, but I am very appreciative that I was able to retain my job and continue working and improving my skills to become, to ask for a raise and become a higher paid employee. Again, I'm not saying you should be underpaid, but I think what I would say is make sure your skills match your salary level. So whenever a company going through restructuring, people looking at what people contribute versus how much you make, you come out as a person who is worth that salary. Another advantage of being underpaid is your mistakes are more forgivable. So I had this conversation a number of times, and sometimes I was part of a conversation where somebody complains about another employee, and then like the owner of the company or the boss is like, oh yeah, I see. Well, you know what? They're like the junior person, kind of expected. They're paid the least, they're kind of there to make sure, they're learning, just making sure things are running when everyone's left for lunch or something like that. So yeah, they made a mistake, but I guess so. You probably should check up on what their work after they did it or something like that. Of course, this works only for so long. You keep screwing up, you're gonna get fired anyway. But still, it's a lower salary employee are being less scrutinized at work because they're cheaper. That's just how it is, and that's how it's been in my experience. And finally, having a lower salary helps you stay under the radar. So different people go through different things in their lives. Maybe you're sick, injured, you having kids, maybe you have a family member that's sick. And sometimes it's really nice to stay under the radar. And if you're not the highest paid employee, if you're just at the bottom and you have lots of personal things to do, you could say like, look, guys, I'm dealing with problems. I get paid what I get paid. I don't care about promotions. I don't care about anything like that. I cannot work overtime. I cannot do anything. Just let me handle my life for a while. And people are going to be fine. Like, all right, he's not terribly high paid. It's not a big expense on the company. Sure, they can't do certain things, it kind of sucks, but we're going to let it slide and let them figure things out. So having a lower salary helps you kind of stay under the radar and be less visible and be also less scrutinized, like we talked about in the previous point. So should you fight for fair compensation at work? Absolutely. But if there are periods of your life when you're underpaid, well, don't be discouraged, because sometimes it may be a good thing, as you will find out later. Put the work in, learn the skills, And those are the most important things to do, especially when you're starting out. That's it for this video. Thank you for checking it out. Don't forget to follow on LinkedIn, subscribe on YouTube, and I will see you on another.